Brooks Koepka beat out a pair of Australians in Singapore this week. He won LIV Golf Singapore 15 under par, rounds of 66, 64, 68. This is his second victory on LIV since winning the PGA Championship last year. But what was very interesting about this are some of the quotes that came out this week while he was doing his pressers. Greg, he described the first 4 months of the year leading up to the Masters as, quote, a waste. Mm-hmm. He would then go on to say that, referring to after the Masters, quote, I think the embarrassment of Augusta really kicked things into overdrive for me, and really having to put my nose down and grind it out a little bit harder and having to look at my team in the eye and apologize. I'm not looking to do that again, end quote.
There's so many different ways this could go. I'd find it just absolutely perplexing. But ultimately, what I think with Brooks Koepka is he hates losing. And when he loses, he gets upset like he did last year at the Masters. You know, that won't happen again. He goes out and wins the PGA. So I think he hates losing. He loses. He kicks things into gear, puts in some work, gets focused, and he's one of the best players in the world. And I am kind of expecting to see that at the PGA Championship at Valhalla. And on the other side of the coin, there's like a disappointing aspect to this. It's like you go out and win the PGA last year, and now you're just kind of cruising around until like something kickstarts you. You know, like where there's a massive what if with him, because if it's clear that when he's focused, he puts his mind to it, he works at it, he's one of the best players in the world. It's also clear there are times when he doesn't. And that's, as a sports fan, as a fan of his golf story, that's disappointing.
He's struggled on the putting surfaces. He's been switching back and forth between the gamer Scotty Cameron, the blade that you see for a while, and the new kind of, I think it's the Phantom that he's been using. He used that again in Singapore, KP. He gained 4 strokes putting over the course of 3 rounds. And I don't have to remind you of his PGA Championship record. So as we know, the next time we see him is going to be in Louisville. And he's going to be one of the biggest storylines again. I've been practicing for weeks.
Yeah. He is. 3 guys have won 4 or more PGAs. You may have heard of them: Tiger Woods, Jack Nicklaus, and Walter Hagen. And he could make it 4. I think a lot of things about Brooks. I think one thing I was thinking about, actually, as it relates to him, and Greg was kind of getting at this. He is like an world-class just killer, right? Like he just wins. And I think one thing that's sort of like shows that is he's won all over the world, which I think is a little bit of an underrated characteristic. Like think about the countries that he's won in: Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Spain. We're going back to like Challenge Tour stuff, but Scotland, Italy, obviously the United States. Like now Singapore. He just wins all over the world, which to me is, I think it's cool. I think it is the sign of a great Japan he's won in. I think it's the sign of a really like great player to be able to win in different environments and different countries. And I just think that's an underrated, meaningful. He's now won as many LIV events as he won PGA Tour events, like non-majors.
What does he have? 4?
4.
Oh, two in the last year and then 2 previously.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. And then the last thing, he had this quote. I don't know if Josh has it. It's on my I tweeted it out, but he has this quote where he says, he was asked like, why do you win? Like, what is it mentally about you where you win majors? And he said, I'm a great ball striker, but also I'm willing to go to a place, and I think he said mentally, that other guys are not willing to go to. Which reminds me a little bit of his quote from the Ryder Cup last year when he was asked who really wants the ball down the stretch, how many guys really want the ball, and he said very few. And I thought that I'm willing to go to a place mentally was super interesting that other guys are unwilling to go to. Here it is. I think the big thing that kind of separates me is my ability to lock in and go someplace where I think a lot of guys can't go. He's speaking I think like the endurance of a tournament, mentally, like staying locked in. It's what we've seen Scottie Scheffler really thrive at recently, right? Where you're so committed on each and every shot, and that drains you. It takes a lot out of you, which I think is why guys like Koepka, this is sort of what you're talking about, Greg. Guys like Koepka kind of go in and out of that. He's like the ultimate at being able to go in and out of it. Like,
yes,
to be like, he goes one end of the spectrum to the other, right? Where he's like so committed that I think what he's talking about is true. Other guys can't get to that place mentally. And then he'll go like so uncommitted where you're watching and you're like, what's this guy doing? You know,
we'll look up and we'll be like, is Brooks fat and does he care? Like,
yes.
And I wonder if that's the modern formula where like mentally you can only be locked in for so many weeks or whatever a year. But I wish, like Scheffler has been displaying, that Koepka was like that more often, because I think it would result in a really, like, his career is obviously amazing. I think it could be more well-rounded and like one of the great modern careers. And I just don't know if it's going to go that way because of the reasons that Greg mentioned.
You know, it's a really interesting thing you mentioned there. Like, how much energy does it take to get to that place?
Mm-hmm.
And I may have, well, why do you get there all the time? It may be wrong of me to say, because some guys, maybe this is what makes them great, like Tiger Woods, can get there all the time. They live there. And other guys, you know, maybe 5-time major champions can only get there on a couple of occasions. Still special to get there, but maybe it's not just laziness. Maybe it's really just the challenge of getting there. So I owe him a little credit on that.
I think it's hard when he says that, get to a place that other guys can't go to. As a competitive player, Craig, like, what is that? What is he talking about there? Like, what does that mean? Because Rick and I have not played competitively before. We've not been, we've been around it in covering golf, but we haven't experienced that. Does that make sense what he's saying there?
Yes, I think it's really difficult to describe, you know, I don't know what that place is, right? I've never been to that place, but it's clearly a zone that you see. We've seen Tiger Woods get into that zone. We've seen Michael Jordan live in a zone like that from time to time, where I think you use the word, Kyle. I think you're right on the money with it. You're locked in. When things go badly and you're in the mix, can you get yourself out of it? We saw Brooks do that at Bethpage Black.
Mm-hmm.
Can you get on a big boy golf course like that and go shoot 63 in the opening round? Yeah, I mean, that's a really special place to get to. So I think it's a heavy lift to get to a place like that. And when you watch someone like Scottie Scheffler get to a place like that, it doesn't seem like a heavy lift at all.
Mm-hmm.
And for Tiger, it felt like a heavy lift, but it just felt like he could always accomplish it. But that's what's so fascinating about Scottie. It feels like he's treading water and everybody else is swimming in a triathlon. It feels like he can go on forever because he's not expending any energy.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what separates him. And maybe it's not a negative thing for Brooks. Maybe it's more of an impressive thing that he can kind of flip the switch like that upon occasion.
He is currently 20-1 to win at Valhalla, which is the same odds as Joaquin Niemann and Xander Schauffele.
That is outrageous. That is so dumb. Like, who is not, like, why is that the case, Rick?
I don't know. Xander is always he's always shorter than you'd expect him to be. I think that for a lot of sports books, when they do their models and stuff, he's always going to model really well. So they don't want to get burned on him. The Niemann thing is interesting. The only thing that I could assume, and I'm only looking at one book here. I haven't shopped this around. What I'm kind of assuming is we are still very early in the cycle, and the vast majority of the money is going to come in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of PGA Championship week. We're very, very early in the cycle. That this book that I'm looking at might have taken a bigger advanced bet on Joaquin Niemann that moved it to that point. But I think that as we get closer, money starts coming in, we see kind of that week of reset. I imagine Brooks, I would hope Brooks is going to end up being like 14-1 and like the third shortest odds behind, or maybe the fourth behind Scotty, Roy, Rahm, like that realm.
Yeah. I mean,
he should be the second favorite.
I don't really disagree. I don't know how you could.
He should be the second favorite. I mean, I don't see any way around it.
I also tried to make Will Zalatoris the favorite at the Masters like 3 weeks before the Masters. So don't listen to me.
Hey, he finished top 10.